Good morning, Block fam. Today's episode, we are going to be covering this Road Glide here. It belongs to Mr. Weston. First and foremost, I'd like to thank Mr. Weston for dropping off his motorcycle and allowing me the time to be able to film this. Now, as you can tell, there is a plethora of parts around this motorcycle. And yes, I use the word plethora, and if you don't know what the that is, grab yourself a dictionary and look it up. Anyways, we're gonna cover all these parts and all these installs today. What I'm going to do for the first time, and I'm gonna do this once because I know you guys have requested it, I've had it asked, I don't know, I feel like hundreds of times at this point, and I just never do it because it takes a lot of time. So I'm gonna do it this time.
Working on and riding motorcycles is a form of therapy for not only Chris, for me, for John, for Justin, for you, for most everybody who watches this channel. But when throttle therapy just isn't enough, that's when BetterHelp comes in. BetterHelp, who is today's sponsor, is a powerful tool for literally anyone. In today's fast-paced world, stress and anxiety have become pretty common problems for all of us. BetterHelp offers an easy path for you to be able to talk with a professional and set achievable mental health goals. Traditional therapy often involves long wait times, inconvenient commuting, traffic if you're in Orlando. BetterHelp allows you to connect with licensed therapists from home or on the go. John and I are riding to the beach for a week, and so instead of missing my appointment or having to reschedule or the stress of going a week without it if I needed it, I can just sneak in a session on the beach. If you're ready to kickstart your journey to a healthier, happier life, click the link in the description or visit betterhelp.com/blockhead. Not only does it support our channel, but it also gets you 10% off your first month of BetterHelp. Huge thanks to BetterHelp for being along for the ride.
What we are going to do together collectively, you and I, because I have the pointing the wrong way. Anyways, what I'm going to do is, as you can tell, we're going to put a flywheel in today. This happens to be an S&S 4.5-inch flywheel. We're going to compare this flywheel to stock. Once I pull that flywheel out of there, we'll put them on the table here and we'll compare them visually, maybe do potential overall weight, this, that, and the other. These here are Screaming Eagle heads. These are stock heads, along with the S&S 132 reverse dome piston. And what we're going to do today is we're going to use this fancy tool. It's called a beret. I don't normally film this, but we're going to measure the cc's of this combustion chamber versus this combustion chamber, as well as the minus cc's of this piston to determine our overall combustion chamber, our squish factor, as well as our deck height. The deck height on each cylinder will determine the extra space that we need to determine to get our true compression ratio. So we're gonna do some mathematics today. We're gonna do a little bit of everything today. I've got a 7-speed transmission here that's gonna go in this motorcycle. Stainless ARP bolts everywhere. Suspension with new fork tubes, so you're gonna get to see that part. Looks like we're gonna put an oil cooler in. Armored attitude adjuster, or also known as a new primary chain adjuster from Baker. Looks like we got some spark plugs, some assorted stuff, some more nuts and bolts. All right, so we got some primary stuff. We got an Evo clutch here, a lockup clutch that we're gonna be putting in this. Star racing comp. We have, I don't know what we call this, a stabilizing link. So by putting this on, this will strengthen and solidify the mount. This is a chain drive, so we're gonna obviously be converting this to chain drive. Revo Arc 14-inch, those are 12, so these will be +2. We got +2 in the front, +2 in the rear. And then we have the 132 kit with a ton of extra goodies. So we've got some stainless case bolts, those are going in. We're gonna put in some fueling billet breathers. Looks like we've got new rocker arm supports. We've got new cylinder studs. Looks like we've got some billet piston oilers. Looks like we're going to be using the 550 cam because that's what comes in the 132 kit. Looks like we've got some studs, some rockers, some bolts, a new gear, 64mm throttle body with a Ward polished manifold. This will be a lengthy video. I'm just going to preface that now. This may turn out to be 35, 40, maybe even 45 minutes because we're literally going stem to stern. And I don't leave it in the comments if you don't know what the stem to stern means, but I promise you that means from the front to the back. And I don't want to argue that. We've already done this in other videos. Let's go over what he already has. Since we're going to put all this go fast in it, what does he got? We've got a Galfer rotor. Obviously we have Legends on it already, but we're going to take this system off and go to a taller system. We've got a nice Bassani short 2-in-1 on it. A whole little thrash and handlebar setup right there. Looks like the fuel Moto. Brembo conversion kit with some Gallifer rotor, so he's got some good stopping going on up front. Looks like we got some carbon fiber parts as we go through. We've got some Baja design lights, so he's already got some cool points going on. Carbon fiber dash, side covers, rear fender, the whole nine, some thrashing covers. Looks like he's got a good base. So we're gonna add a whole ton of power to this. I not only have to film, but I have to take care of regular people that come in and out. So fitting all this in sometimes is a challenge, but making it happen, guys. I wanted to make it happen, and I want you guys to be a part of it, and I want you to see what's actually involved in all this. The only thing I think I'm going to just say right now that you may not see, because it's kind of tough to set up over there, is me like pressing in and out the case bearings, but I'll probably get it from maybe behind. I don't know. This is a working shop, so unfortunately I'm not exactly set up to just film everything I do. I am trying to figure out where I want to place the camera and really where I want to start. Give me too many choices. I really don't know where to start. I think, guys, we should start by pulling the engine. Let's just pull the whole damn thing, because we know we have to bring it over here and break it all down anyways, so let's just pull the whole engine. But a few things are going to happen here today. Like, I'm going to use a compression calculator online. You can get them anywhere. You can probably Google compression calculator. You'll probably come up with 100 of them. My source I like to use is JEGS. Their website is user-friendly. It's easy. You just input the data you need, make your measurements, and it'll spit the answers out for you. I'm lying to you, but it'll give you the calculations to get the answers. With that being said, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna start here, and then we're gonna work all in here, and then we're gonna put all that back in, and then we're gonna do that as well, and then we'll do that, and maybe in 2 to 3 days we can have this done. All right, so with that being said, let's get into it. Hey guys, just wanted to jump in real quick. About to install 7th gear. This is a 2-piece taper style bearing. They supplied it with a blue spacer. They include a red, green, orange, yellow, and white. They are different thicknesses. I don't have the book right in front of me. It's over there, so I'm not going to quote what size these are, but these are different sizes to either take up or add end play here. Once I get this installed, I'm probably going to do this in time lapse. I'm not going to really explain all this, but once I'm done and I get my end play set right and I'm happy, then I'll cut back in and we'll go over what I did. So we've got the main drive gear installed. What we're going to do is measure the end play. Currently we are set at 0. If we pull on this, we are moving, what is that, 4 ticks. When I push, we go just beyond, and when I pull fully, we go not quite to 4, so give or take 4. So since we have an end play of 4 thousandths, if we step over here and reference our book, we are too large. We want our end play to be 5 10,000ths, which is microscopic. At a maximum of 2 thousandths. We are currently at 4, give or take 4.5. So we definitely need to step down. If we glance at the paperwork here, that's going to tell us to install the green spacer, which is 0.104. It looks like the red is supposed to be 0.108. So if we go to 104, is that going to achieve what we need? Because we want to be between 2 and as little as 5 10,000ths. So we could either go with the green, or we could even step it down further, or step it up further. In this case, we'll actually be stepping down spacer size. So what I'm going to do is we're going to sit down and figure out what they are. We'll measure it ourselves. So I told you guys I was going to drag you along for all this. Again, this is the non-exciting part. We've got 4, easily 4, maybe even 5. I'd almost say closer to 5. We need to step that down. I'll figure out what size that is and we'll come back with that. Once we've got that set, then we'll sit down and we'll go through the differences between these two transmissions, the stock 6-speed and the DD7 here. I have this magnetic base out for a reason. I want to address something here. Baker does their own YouTube channel on how to set up the end play. This is my way of doing it. Their way shows the install tool. They're measuring off the shoulder of the install tool, and it looks like they've put maybe a metal L bracket, and that's a magnetic base with a slider. Right, so I have a magnetic base. This is a flex elbow. I opted to use this first, and I put a piece of metal across here, but I didn't like it. It's not as comfortable for me. I'm not as familiar. I also don't measure off the shoulder of the install tool. I measure right off the gear. Honestly, there's no right or wrong way on that. If you're measuring from the tool, that's fine, as long as you are affixed to the transmission case, much like this. This is a fixed piece to the transmission case. Now, if you used a magnetic base, or you were someone that maybe bolted off of here, if you bolt off the frame, you're always going to have an inaccurate measurement. If you use this magnetic base, say you put it to the frame, or you put it to the frame over here or there, or whatever you choose to do, inaccurate measurement. Always make sure that whatever you're measuring from, you're fixed to the transmission case. That way you don't have any inaccurate measurements. Again, this is just the way I do it. There's probably some other ways to do it, but as you guys see, that's the measurement we got. So again, we're going to take the same measurement again once we get this fixed. All right. So let's just set ourselves up here. We're at 0. Currently we are not a full 2000s. So we are under 2000s. We are good to go. According to the book, if we're over 2000s, we want to go down. Started with a blue, and they wanted me to step down to a green, which would have been a 104. I stepped down to a white, which was a 102. Netted me almost a full 2000s. Now that we've got all that in there, the next step is to insert the 7-speed transmission and make sure that we don't have any case touching. What do you think of that versus that? What do we see? What do you see? What's the difference? This is a much more durable gear set than this. The material it's made from, much more durable. We have an extra gear on this one that we don't have on this one. How did they do that, might you ask? Well, let's look. This is the stock Harley transmission. Looks like there's a lot of space in here, right? They use this as a slider gear. This is a slider shift fork. These are dogs. So these are dogs right here. These teeth. These look like teeth right here. These spin. As you shift, this slides down and engages with this. This is known as the dog house. So if we notice this slider gear here that has dogs on both sides, each one of these is a housed gear. Well, they eliminated that. They added a gear in that space. They actually fit a gear right in here. And if you notice, the shift fork is now onto this gear. So this becomes a shifting gear. And if we look up under here, we notice that that gear has dogs as well. On this side, we can't fully tell, but it does have dogs as well. So this is an engagement gear, and this is an engagement gear, and this is the slider. So if you notice, stock, we have 3 shift forks. The Baker, we have 3 on this side and 1 on this side, so we have 4 total shift forks. We also, if you notice this stock Harley shift drum, it's got this just space for nothing. Baker went ahead and used that space to, you know, control this extra shift fork. This door here is billet. This door is cast. We notice that these bearings are bolted in, roller bearings with steel cages. These are roller bearings with plastic cages. But other than that, that's probably all that we're going to notice visually, right? If you were just to walk up on it and look at it. So do you guys think it's worth it? I kind of do. If you're going to put this much power to your engine and you're going to have this much capability, it's kind of nice to have that extra gear, I'll be honest. So when we install the case, what we want to do is make sure that second gear counter shaft, we want to make sure that it doesn't actually touch the case. We'll pull this back out one more time. We'll get the gaskets on it. We'll get it lubed up and prepped, and then we'll get it installed for the final time. welcome back. Brock swing arm. We had an issue because we had the blocks flipped in the rear, the extended swing arm position. In the forward position, you clear the ears, but when you flip it around to the rear position, this bolt becomes an issue for the ears and it won't really move. My issue in the beginning was that they claimed 100% fits and then it doesn't. No, at least not in the rear position. So just be aware, guys, that it does fit. It absolutely will fit, but unfortunately not in the extended position. So with that out of the way, let's get back to the install. Let's get back to the time lapse. Now we've got the flywheel out. This is stock and this is S&S's. Visually, well, the gear is different. That's pretty easy. What else do we spot? This visually looks different. There's some holes in this one and there's no holes in that one. No holes on this side, holes on that side. Also, this has brass in there and that has no brass, and I've covered this once before in other videos and I'm gonna cover it now for you guys. So this is the stock flywheel. This is a taper top rod with parent material. That's actually the same material all the way through. There's no bushing in there. This is a bushing, just for you guys that don't know. This is not taper top, this is full top. This is known as a full top rod. So the piston that's designed to fit on this one will not necessarily fit on this one if it needs to be cut out. It depends on how that piston was cut underneath. See, this has been machined out to fit that. If you notice, we can kind of eyeball that here upside down. Stock ones are not necessarily milled out to fit. So this is your crank pin. For those of you that don't know, this is actually hollow. This is just literally just a plug that's been like pressed in. This is not hollow, this is solid. This is done for balancing. If you notice, that solid rod went all the way through. This has holes and these are done for balancing. This one does not have holes, and this, again, this crank pin is hollow. And just to back up 2 seconds, the reason this is done, these flywheels can shift. They can scissor, which means they shift this way, or they can toe in, toe out this way. This has been pressed in here to help maintain the structural integrity of all of this. By the way, this is made of 4140, which is 114% stronger than this material. For those of you that don't know what forged is versus this, which is known as cast, cast metal is when it's molten metal or liquid, it's poured in and then it's cooled. This material, when this metal is liquid, it is poured into something and then compressed. The stock flywheel weighs 35.5 pounds. Now, we just weighed that on our male scale, and the S&S flywheel weighed in at 39.15 pounds. So not quite a full 4 pounds difference. The difference in the weight will basically smooth the torque out in the very, very bottom. It will still ramp up the horsepower, it's actually going to carry more horsepower than this, even though in theory it shouldn't as easily. It will. Once you get that thing rotating, it's going to carry that weight. It's going to spin it up. Once it's up, it's gone. On to the next, which I think I got to press the bearings in and out. We got some nice billet S&S piston oilers that are going to go in here. New case studs too. We got some stronger studs. Then we're going to get the bottom end back in there, and then we're going to measure the CC volumes of the heads before we put everything back together. And we're also going to measure our deck height before we're all said and done. Anyhow, back to the time lapse. A couple things happen when we're reassembling the cases that I want to talk about real quick. Always want to inspect the lifter bores. We're looking for a couple things. We're looking for abnormal wear and tear, some potential scarring that looks detrimental. Anything that it shouldn't look like, obviously. And then the other thing we're gonna do is, once we've got our lifters installed, and I'm gonna try to do this, is before we torque this plate down, we need to clearance the lifter right between this plate. So we're going to clearance both. I don't think there's actually a published spec that I'm aware of. What we'll do is we'll go right in here and we'll check our clearance. I've got it at 2000s currently. That's what I like. We're replacing lifters at this go round. If you were just servicing the engine or what have you, you still want to inspect that while you're here always. And then when we torque this, we'll set our clearances, and then I'm going to snap this back on. I had already done them both, but apparently time-lapse wasn't on, so my apologies. So that's to cover what we just did there. Anyhow, let's get back into the time-lapse. Hey, so I'm going to show you guys deck height and how we measure it. Currently, I've got this rigged up. We used that head right there, and we put it on here, and we torqued both the head gasket and the base gasket to S&S's specified torque, which is 45 foot-pounds incrementally. Well, I like to start at 15 and then go 25, 35, 45. Really, however you want to do it, I guess, is fine. Just do it really close to what they say, or do what they say exactly. We're gonna watch this piston move. So if I move, now you'll see it go up and then back down. Did you notice that? Sure you guys did, because you guys aren't blind or stupid. So we're gonna go to the peak, which is right about there. Now there's two ways to find the peak, and I'm about to show you. So we're gonna start at 0.106. It's really big. See this end? We're gonna push this end, so this part here is gonna sit on the cylinder edge, and the other part, this, is gonna measure the depth. So let's see what happens if we move the piston. We didn't change. How about we go the other way? We didn't change. So our deck height, at least on this measurement, is 33. Oh, sorry, it's 36. I don't know where I got 33. Just to verify we know what we're doing. So we lay this edge completely flat, which is somewhat of a challenge, to be honest with you. And then we need to be able to move this piston up. And what will happen is the piston will push on that to its smallest point, which is right there. And once again, we got 36. So we're pretty consistent, 36. So our deck height is technically minus 3 thousandths, 36 10,000. I can't even speak anymore, 36,000. So we're gonna write that down, and we're gonna write that as a minus, because even though that's a positive, that's actually a minus. If the piston was standing proud or above the cylinder, we would take the measurement a little bit differently, and we would probably put a straight edge across the top of the piston and then measure with a feeler gauge underneath. There's a couple ways we can get there. There's also a couple ways of measuring this as well. Same deal, you could lay a straight edge. For example, you could use this. You would have to raise your piston back to the top height, and then you could feeler gauge underneath if you wanted to. So there's multiple ways to get to this measurement. Our deck height on the rear is minus 36 thousandths, right? I have to look again. With that knowledge, we also know that our piston is a minus 10 cc domed piston. So at this point, what we need to do is measure the cc's of our head. I'll show you how we figure out our static compression ratio. And just so you guys know, we're not blueprinting Joshua Weston's engine here. I am going to use this opportunity to show you how we would and what we would do to get the exact same answer: cranking compression, static compression, and also running compression equal on both cylinders, as well as our deck height being even. The flywheel run out in the case on the end measured here was 5 10,000ths. I think mine was also at 5 10,000ths. So S&S does a damn good job of assembling these consistently to achieve the same results consistently. All right, guys, this is why we always measure twice, especially when we feel like something's off. Now we're at 16. Something didn't seat quite right the first time I torqued these. Sometimes that happens. 15. We are dead nuts the same. So 15. on both front and rear. This is why we measure twice. It's 15.5, 16. Now that we've got them both seated, we're at 1.5. So that I feel so much better about that. With that knowledge, we're going to move forward. We know that everything going forward now should, in theory, be equal. So again, we'll do our math here in a little bit, and we'll get on with the get on. What I'm doing over here is we're about to take a measurement. We're going to measure our cylinder head volume. We're going to measure the stock head, and then we're going to measure the head that's going on. We're also going to measure valve size, and we'll make a comparison. We'll do some visual comparisons here in a moment. We're going to use this fancy glass measuring tool known as a beret. It is in milliliters, but for those of you that do not know, milliliters and cc's are essentially exactly the same. They take the same measurement, they convert the same. Seal this off. We're going to fill that up with water, and then we're going to fill this all the way to the top with water, and we're going to get all the air out. You're going to get to watch how that happens, and then through that and through the magic of the rest of our measurements and an online calculator, we're going to figure out our static compression ratio for this engine. Now that I've got you rigged up, I laced the edge of the combustion chamber with some wheel bearing grease. Now I'm going to do the other head as well, and then I press this Lexan plate onto it, and as you press it around, it actually creates a seal. You can see the grease kind of flatten out. Now that I've created that seal, I've lowered my beret. It's very important that your water starts at the 0 line. So it's also important to have both spark plugs that you're going to be using, and then we're literally going to just let it, if you notice, the water's falling, and then we're gonna wait for this to fill up. This is the quote-unquote horsepower science, and we're just gonna let this fill up, and once we start touching the Lexan, you guys will see what we're looking for. So this is the air that's left. There's a little bit of air along this edge, and what we're looking for is for that to obviously be completely gone. We want all the air, including this edge. 92.4. And I bet I could get one more drop in, and we could probably get 92.6 or 92.5. So for lack of a better term, let's call this 92.5. Now we're going to measure the stock one. Now this does have a small amount of carbon stain, but it's not. It shouldn't be enough to drastically affect the volume measurement. What I didn't cover last time was that I'm going to take some grease here. You know what? I'll just do it with you guys, because like I said, I thought I had done this once before, and I did, but I wasn't recording. Shame on me. Go figure. Now, what I'm going to do, I've got both spark plugs in. I've got my automatic compression release in. Now we've got to put this to 100. Here comes Justin sneaking in the back door here. He thinks he's like being slick, but he's right there.
Somebody call for some...
Yes.
Fluids.
Did you get? Oh yes, for the.
Gotta get that tight.
So I had to stop the time lapse there to come do this while waiting for him. So he just got a new headlight.
I did.
Did you see this? Yo, let's look at this.
You know, I had to be a part of the Cool Boys Club. You know,
is that what it is?
Everybody got the
oh shit! God, it's bright.
Freddie's favorite part with the yellow.
Yeah, woo, look at that. That's like the chill down mode.
Yeah, you know.
Boom.
But hey, I'm a part of the Cool Boy Club. That's what we do
there
around
it is.
Here, right?
There it is.
There's like 8 people in here with LP6s.
Is there?
The guys are working on right now.
Yeah, we got 2 there. We got 2 there.
We got Blockhead.
We got, yep, we got blocks.
And then there's a few on the shelf with customers that we're going to install them on, which shamelessly, head to blockheadgarage.com, fill out the form, I'll put you in touch with me, and we can get you booked up for service.
So I guess I can go back to this.
Big science guy.
We're just having fun out here.
Well, you get back to it.
All right, man. 100 line. I know that's hard to tell, or it's not even a 100 line. I apologize. It's actually the 0 line. As I stick this on, notice what happens. It's like magic. Now, can you see how that looks? And let's see what happens when I press. Oh, do you see it? We'll lower this a little bit, and we're just gonna let it fill up. Remember this game? We're just gonna watch it go. We got 84. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. now that we've got those calculations, let's get moving on. The battery's about to die, so back to time lapse. Hey, I am done, finally. Good morning. We're gonna do first fire up together. I usually do this on camera. It's always fun for me. This will be the cold startup. You guys got to watch all this go together, from the swing arm suspension to the transmission to the engine. I don't need to recap. You guys just got done watching it. Anyways, let's fire it up. We'll be done with the dyno sheet. We'll have it out looking pretty. All right, we'll be back. What is up, guys? Hey, we are back, done in the dyno finally. All right, where did we land? We got 156 foot-pounds, 157 almost, 156.89, and 151.13. 157 and 151. Not bad at all. The torque number is very similar to my own 132. It's very similar, almost basic setup. The difference is I have stock heads. It looks like Mr. Weston here achieved about 11 more horsepower than I was able to achieve out of my stock heads. So that's one advantage to the +1 heads. Big improvement. So he came in at 121.98 or 122 foot-pounds. He's leaving at 157 foot-pounds. He came in at 110 horsepower and he's going to leave with 151 horsepower. So these are typical results of 132 kits with +1 heads. If you do this with stock heads, you can expect very, very similar torque numbers. You may not quite get to 157. By 2250, we are at 140 foot-pounds and we remain above 140 foot-pounds. Some of you may wonder what this is. That is the length of this exhaust. In comparison to this cam with this intake. Great power though. We're not complaining at all. That minute little torque dip, you're not really going to feel it, and you're for sure not going to feel that at the very end. There's no way. It's just your ass going to go right through it. Great power, great results. So let's get back out there. Let's look at our numbers. Let's go over what our compression ratio is. We can get our static. I believe we'll figure out our cranking compression. I'm going to see you out there, and we'll get this video put to rest here very, very shortly. And here we are with some measurements. Exciting, huh? It's like going back to school. Yay, my favorite. We've got our bore. Our bore is 4.320. Our stroke is 4.5. Our gasket thickness after being crushed and torqued is 030. And it's actually right on 030, which is kind of surprising. The head volume, as we measured earlier, is 92.5 cc's. Piston dome volume is a minus 10.5 cc's. Now, I'm going to point something out here. This minus may or may not go in our calculator, depends on who we use. And our deck height or our deck clearance, we did this earlier. Remember, I had to measure twice on that one, so we ended up with 15 thousandths or 0.015 on both. So anyhow, we've got our measurements here. Let's use our online calculator. We're going to calculate, and the result is we have a cc ratio of 131.92 or 132, and our compression ratio is 11.11, which also can be considered 11:1. Now that we have figured out static compression ratio, let's look at how we do our dynamic compression ratio. So here we are. To go over the dynamic compression ratio, we're gonna use our online calculator. So for number of cylinders, we're gonna put 2. The bore in inches, again, 4.320. Stroke, once again, still 4.5. Rod length in inches, center to center is 8.014. I had to get that verified. We've got the static compression ratio we measured already at 11:1. The inlet valve closes on the 550 cam. I went with the intake valve. The rear closes at 31 and a half. I can't remember, I don't have it right in front of me. But the front closes at 29.4. So I went with the front because that's gonna be the shortest. So 29.4. Obviously we have no boost on this engine, so we're gonna leave that blank. And then it says target altitude, and to be honest with you, that's more for the boost. I went ahead and put a number in that anyways because we're operating at sea level, so I put 80 feet maximum. Our result on this, we had a static compression ratio of 11.1, which we already knew. We have an effective stroke of 4.29 or 4.3 inches if we round up. Our dynamic compression ratio is 10.53 or 10.5 to 1. Our dynamic cranking pressure is 23.61 psi. And we're not worried about boost or anything else. So what that's telling us, guys, is as we're cranking the engine, when the starter has to work, we are compressing at a rate of 11.1. While that engine is moving and it's screaming at you, its real compression ratio is 10.5. That can become a very significant number depending on what kind of cam you're using, the overall compression ratio, the type of starter. There's a lot of things that factor into that, but that's usually not something we have to concern ourselves with for the style of engines we're building here. Now, if I'm building something that somebody's going to take out on a track, or we're going for max power, we really don't give a shit about anything but wide open throttle, that we may need to take into account because we'll need to start it. There are multiple ways to lower that as well as timing. S&S actually makes some compression releases that are built into cams that work on the twin cam engine real well. So there's lots of ways to achieve this. But anyhow, not to bore you too long, but now that we've done all that mathematical equation, what did that really tell us in the end? That we have a really good running motorcycle. It tells us a lot more. But for sake of what we're doing here, this engine here that we just went over, technically, by all rights, it has been blueprinted and each cylinder is equal. It has been measured from stem to stern. The only thing that hasn't been 100% equalized would be the combustion chambers. They both measure the same, but we did not measure the intake volume or the exhaust port volume. We also did not measure the shapes. There's a few things that could have went into this engine to really truly blueprint, but all in all, we know where we're at. And if we wanted to raise our compression ratio a little bit, let's say we want to deck those cylinders and make that the deck height of a 0 rather than a minus 0.15, that's going to increase both our dynamic compression ratio, but more importantly, it's going to increase our static compression ratio. We built a pretty bad motorcycle that I hope you guys enjoyed watching. I enjoyed putting together. I want to remind you guys, I probably did this once in the video already. I'm going to do it one more time, especially here at the end. If you enjoyed this content and you're still with me, man, and you haven't already, hit the like, subscribe, share that shit, send it out to your family, send it out to your people. Be like, yo, check this out. Sit down, let this dude do his thing in front of you. For those of you that are, again, still here, fucking props. I hope you enjoyed watching everything that we put together and everything that we did. Overall power, if you look at it, it starts there and it pretty much ends there. It's just all power. That's what I want you guys to pay attention to. You have reliable power all the way around. And if you guys are interested in getting something like this done to your bike, hit us up, man. Blockheadmoto.com. Reach out to Justin. He's on the editing side of this. You may or may not, I know you'll probably have seen him a couple times in this video. As a matter of fact, we talked about his motorcycle right here and his new headlight. I'm gonna remind y'all once again, that man got himself a new headlight. He's super proud of his bike. In case y'all don't know, I got a little secret coming up for him and I can't tell you because of course he's gonna edit this, so he's gonna know. So I can't say, but I got something going and I already know this is gonna antagonize him. He's gonna be like, what the f are you doing? Don't worry about it, you'll see it when it's done. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this. This is the end of me. I think I've said it enough. All right, guys, have a good day, good evening, good night, whatever the f time it is for you. See you later.